In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank God it's Friday as we are doing another Final Word Friday. Tonight, I'm going to get the show started with a Black History reflection. Then I will introduce our guests before we bring them into the show. Our Black History reflection is on Assata Shakur. Assata Shakur stands as one of the most complex and consequential figures in modern Black liberation history. Born Joanne Deborah Byron, she emerged from the crucible of the civil rights and Black power movements with a clarity that unsettled the nation. That freedom is not merely a legal status, but a lived condition requiring vigilance, courage, and structural change. Her writings reminds us that oppression is never accidental, it is engineered, and liberation is never spontaneous, it is organized. Assata's insistence on self-determination, community protection, and political education continues to echo across generations, especially as we confront modern debates around equity, belonging, and institutional accountability. Tonight, as we discuss DEI, leaderships, ecosystems, and the architecture of access, we honor Assata's reminder that nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. Her legacy challenges us to build structures, not slogans, that endure. So now let me introduce our guests. Welcome to another Final Word Friday on American Black and White. I'm your host, Charles King, and tonight we're stepping into a conversation that sits at the crossroads of power, leadership, and the future of equity in America. We're living in a moment where DEI is being redefined, sometimes intentionally dismantled, sometimes strategically reshaped, and sometimes quietly absorbed into corporate culture without the structural teeth required to make a real change. But while the national discourse shifts, the lived realities of Black founders, Black leaders, and Black institutions remain the same. We're still building, still innovating, still leading, and still demanding systems that recognize our full humanity and our full capability. And that's why tonight's guests matter. Sutton C. McCraney and Lacey Flowers didn't just create a space, they created a standard. They built the flavor room, an invite-only leadership ecosystem for founders and CEOs of color who are not simply trying to participate in the marketplace, but reshape it. Their work is not performative, it's not optics, it is infrastructure, it is institutional, it is legacy. So tonight we're going to talk about DEI, not as a corporate trend, not as a political talking point, but as a structural necessity for any society that claims to value excellence, innovation, and long-term stability. Let's get into it and let's bring our guests to the show. Hello, young ladies. How are you?
Hello, Mr. King. We are
Hello.
well. How are you?
I am excellent. So, if you guys could take the time for each of you to to introduce yourselves to the audience and let them know who you are and what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. King, and hello to the America in Black and White family here. That was a beautiful Black history reflection, and it fits perfectly and it really hits home for me as someone who grew up reading Black liberation literature, courtesy of my father. So I appreciate that. My name is Sutton McCraney. I'm a homeschool mom of four, United States Air Force veteran, and I am the founder of the Flavor Room.
And hello to everyone that is listening. Hello, Mr. King. It's lovely to see you again. So I'm Lace. I'm co-founder of The Flavor Room. I'm a British Jamaican home cook and the founder of Empire Kitchen, a real food, nutrition, and performance consultancy for businesses that are serious about building retention, well-being, and culture into their teams.
Oh, wow. So as we get into this, and I just want to go back and just talk about our conversation prior to the show. And when I read your paper, and as I told you, I love the angle in which you guys did this paper. But as we get into talking about how you guys actually did that wonderful framing of DEI, tell us what got you guys going into that, and just let's get into DEI as to what it is that the message that you guys are trying to get out.
Well, Mr. King, this was not the plan. I'll be
Okay.
completely honest. When Lace and I came together to found the Flavor Room, one of the first things that we wanted to do was attempt to right the wrongs that we felt had been done to us when we started our journey as entrepreneurs. And that sent us on a path of creating a research paper, doing quantitative as well as qualitative research, because we had for a long time had our own observations and personal experiences when it came to racial bias and tokenism and things of this nature in the online business space. And we had conversations with people as well who were experiencing the same thing, but no one wanted to talk about it. No one wanted to talk about the lack of ethics in sales and all of that. So the paper was our way to do that, putting our stake in the ground as not only founders, but also researchers. So when we were doing our research and kind of concluded things, we realized that our research went beyond online business. That's where we started, but there's so much overlap with corporate. And I said to Lace one day, we have something here that we can share to a broader audience because the implications are vast. So that's what got us started on expanding our message when it came to DEI, because there is a large gap. And as you mentioned earlier, Mr. King, it is under attack. But we are also seeing that these systems were put in place to pacify us so we'd be satisfied with breadcrumbs instead of standing up and saying, no, this is not how we want things done. So we see our work as an extension of that in moving forward in a direction for business owners, organizations to empower themselves to create a standard that works for them.
Absolutely. We were hearing the same stories over and over and over again, and it's lived experience for us as well. And then when we had the findings, it was like, oh, wow, yeah, we have something here. And those people from those corporations, from that wider audience, were the ones that were really interested in this, like yourself. So we're like, do you know what? Yep, got something here. So off we went, and here we are.
And so when you talk about some of those things that you guys found in your research from other people that didn't want to speak on this, what are some of those commonalities that you guys found? But also, what were the actionable thoughts and practices that you guys put in place?
That's a brilliant question. One of the key findings for us, which we coined the phrase the illusion of inclusion.
Mhm.
This was something we heard over and over again in interviews with entrepreneurs from various industries, but also something we discovered, if you will, with our research. For example, we found from the RAND Corporation, one of their 2024 studies on improving pathways to entrepreneurship, experiences of Black and female small business owners in the e commerce space, Black female entrepreneurs in e commerce continue to face systemic gaps in financing, mentorship, and institutional support, even within spaces widely described as more inclusive than traditional markets. So, as far as us, when it came to actionable steps, we said that we need to create a framework that addresses these things. So, we came up with the Legit Standards Framework for businesses. And an aspect of that is making sure that the marketing aligns with what is actually being practiced and put out into the world.
That's right. And then we have, we just recently did Flavor Den yesterday, which was a business and leadership evaluation, which shows this framework in action. So we evaluated 2 businesses last night against our framework. Oh,
And so the findings from the work that you guys did. Is everything okay?
there was just a really horrible sound in my ear just then, and I didn't know what it was. It freaked me out. But yeah, I can hear now. It's fine.
We had a static or something.
So the findings from the work that you guys did with this group that you were just talking about, you guys did some work with. What were some of the findings from that work?
From last night?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Go on, Sat, and we just went live on this. You missed out, so I have to send you that link. But
I talked too much. I'm tired. Go ahead. You start it off and then I'll jump in.
Okay, so last night we found a lot of misalignment between what people say and what's actually happening. And we've seen that all the time in online business, and we actually saw it in action last night. We also saw that there are people who are completely closed to having any kind of feedback. So although you're trying to help them identify the gaps that they have, they're not interested. We also found there is, sadly and unfortunately, a lot of people have been pulled into buying tools and things that they simply don't need, that's supposed to make their life easier, but what's actually happening is they're making their lives more complicated, and they're identifying these tools that are designed to help as things that are actually bottlenecks and holding them back. And you can see that this is unethical sales, because people are out there selling these things that people don't need, don't know how to use, and then they're feeling stuck with them. And that's also leading to burnout, because they feel like, oh my gosh, I've got all these things stressing me out, I've got all these things that I have to do and I can't do them, and I have these tools that are supposed to help and they're holding me back and I don't know what to do about them. So those were some of the things that we noticed.
Oh wow. And so let me just I wanna like do like a reset on this, because I want to make this like an encompassing thing. When this administration that's now in the White House, when they got in and they just decided that they were going to like ban DEI, and when they did that, just come to find out, as what we know what's happening around the country, is that an enormous amount of Black women were actually losing jobs. Okay. So when we think about that, and I think about, the paper and our discussion and so forth, can you bring us into focus as to how that played a part in not only what your findings are in your paper and your research, but what it's looking like at this moment?
I think what you just shared ties in perfectly with what I just said about the illusion of inclusion. You had all of these Black women that were hired at one point. It was celebrated. It was a huge achievement. And then when it's no longer trending, off you go. We don't need you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Figure it out for yourself. So going forward with that, I think there is also a huge opportunity and a lesson for us to take the power back into our own hands.
Mm-hmm.
And also a lesson with being too trusting of
Right.
the same institutions that created the problem that are offering you the solution.
Okay.
And I think that also ties into what we saw last night, because one of our participants mentioned how there's a lot of advice being thrown around, but a lot of it is not coming from a comfortable place, because the people who are dishing it out are some of the same ones who are causing the issues.
Right, right. And so, that just goes to, as we think about this, and, the same people, and this is just my take. So, you just kind of like, you can spread this, but when we think about the same people that call themselves trying to kill equity, they are equity hires. So how can the equity hire take away equity hiring and be less performative because they're still not up to the task of doing the work? So if you can tie that in for us, I would appreciate it.
Rules for thee, but not for me. It doesn't apply to everyone, right? It becomes, well, that's different. It's complicated.
Hmm.
You don't understand that. See, we've done the numbers and the research,
Hmm.
right? And it ties into another thing that we covered in our paper, which is performative leadership.
Hmm.
This is a prime example of that, saying the right things, the the slick branding and the slogans to reel people in, but then we see that it's a facade. Many leaders talk about values. They talk about it publicly, but when we see it in action, it's very different. And then when it's called to task, well, it's like you're the crazy one.
Hmm.
Then the words change around and things can be edited and disappear from the internet. And oh, we didn't say that. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
So as we think about that though, and we know going forward, we know how things actually, how they take shape, and they take form, supposed quote unquote, based off these lies, not lies, but these laws that they put in place because they say these are supposed to be what is what. When you guys were doing your research, can you tell us what were some of the real negativities that you guys found to be the illusion to inclusion?
We found that a lot of people that we spoke to, founders and business owners, often felt that they were included in things simply to tick that DEI box, even though there wasn't always a DEI box to tick. But people have it in their minds that we need one, maybe we need two. So they weren't invited to take part because of their expertise. They're invited to take part because they were the closest person of color that person could find. This happened to me personally. So it was like, oh, you're one. I know you. Come, I need you in my thing, just so I've got you on the flyer, on the website, so I could say, look, we got one. We're inclusive. We love everybody, and
Or
we
that
heard
we
that
have
a lot.
soul. Remember that one,
Yeah.
Lace? You
Oh
ladies
yeah,
have
you're
soul.
soulful. You should come on our panel because you're soulful. And we were like, what does that mean?
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Someone actually said that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
Wow.
we would be a great fit for their panel because we could bring soul to it.
Mm,
So you can infer whatever you want with that one.
wow. See now, that's really using. Um, that was a money move. That's the way I look at it. That was a money move. You know, to have have a little color to get more money. Let's go. Let me tell you talk about the historical roots of DEI. So that we know that DEI is not new, and its lineage traces back to Reconstruction era Freedmen's bureaus, HBCU formations as counter institutions, civil rights legislation, Title 7 and EEOC, and affirmative action frameworks. So when we look at DEI through a historical lens, not as a corporate initiative, but as a continuation of Reconstruction, how does that change the way we evaluate its purpose and its failures?
I think we can see that it was short-sighted and did not account for the hurdles that we face. systemically, because it's easy for these things, as we've seen, to be sabotaged, where the intentions start good, but certain hands with certain monies get involved and are able to subvert well intentioned um, initiatives and movements to work in their favor. And those who would benefit from those end up being the ones who are hurt in the end.
So now, because the reason why, in asking that question, and we think about the HBCU formations as counter institutions,
Hmm.
as you mentioned earlier, with the black women that were losing their jobs. Well, now an enormous amount of the HBCUs have now been infused, where now they're going to have to some of them are totally changing in order to continue funding.
Yes, I've seen that
So,
too.
so from the educational perspective, I mean, what do you think are going to be the actual effects, of this part of equity and inclusion?
I, I'm going to say something positive. I'm going to say that it creates an opportunity to be more resourceful, because I kind of mentioned this earlier, that for far too long, as a collective Black community, we have relied on the other to help us, that they were going to come in and right the wrongs that they created. They were going to give us the funding. They were going to do this. They were going to do that. Well, that reliance has created weakness. So I think we will find ways to be resourceful and figure those things out on our own, creating programs, getting back to working with each other more. I mean, there's billions of dollars circulating in the Black community. There's no reason why that can't be put in back to our own and build our own communities. Others do it.
Right, right.
Yeah. I think this
So,
ties back to what you said right at the beginning when you were reading that reflection. You cannot, if institutions and places and spaces that are supposed to support us are being infiltrated and have to, change how they're doing things to keep the funding, which doesn't necessarily benefit us anymore, then we cannot rely on asking the institutions, spaces, places, people that are essentially oppressing us to help us, to free us. It's up to us to do it. And that's essentially what we're doing. We're being part of that. We are changing the game, changing how it works by doing it ourselves. And that's what we need to do. If we're going to get through this, and not just this, all the things that happen in the world at the moment, we need to stand up and rise up and do what needs to be done, because ain't nobody coming to save us.
Right.
We have to do it ourselves.
I agree with you 500% on that. And I just find it to be, my main thing, which I'm always saying, is that if there's ever a time, then it's now. Because I think uniting, coming together, working together, building your communities and creating your own lanes is primarily going to be the only way to get through this. So as we think about a tool that has done more with divide and conquer than it has been of uniting, when you think of this particular era here of what we're talking about here with DEI, how can we use just equity and inclusion in general in order to bring people in our community and people that look like us together to do the things that we know that we can do?
well, I think that's an excellent question. I would say getting rid of the competition.
Okay.
Uh, because you mentioned, the equity and inclusion piece, getting rid of the competition and saying, look, as Lay said, nobody's coming to save us. How can we use what we have? What are you good at? What am I good at? How can we come together and fix these problems?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the myriad of distractions that are out there to keep us under the thumb and losing focus on these types of issues that matter, How can we get back to what is going to move us forward?
Mhm.
So creating our own initiatives, creating what does equity and inclusion look like for us?
Mhm. Exactly.
Does it look like being somebody's poster child? Does it look like being on a Hollywood billboard? Because that's what we've been fed. You should be happy with that. See, there's some of y'all in a movie
Yeah.
getting paid. There's some of y'all on a basketball team.
Right.
Yay, you've got your diversity and inclusion now. But no,
Mhm.
it's so much more than that. And just like so many things that have been subverted by entities, right? This was one of them. Something that was good in intent turned completely different and used to divide people and further keep them down. So, definitely, I think there's a lot of unlearning that needs to be done and the coming together with each other through having those conversations, getting rid of the competition that someone that looks like you is out to get you,
Mhm.
that someone's going to take away your bag
Right.
because they're trying to collaborate with you or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
And
definitely
so,
about coming together, definitely.
also when we think about, when they were talking about in that question about the civil rights legislation, with Title VII and EEOC. Now, when it comes down to those two things, again, I think this goes to that the statement that you guys made, the illusion of inclusion, because I think when you think about Title VII and EEOC, I don't think they have ever worked for somebody black. Do you know of anyone that's benefited from Title VII and EEOC that's black?
No?
Not
And
why.
it's not supposed to. I mean, if we're going to be honest about it, just the window dressing, the performative leadership to say, oh, we have this.
Hmm.
So if you haven't benefited from it, maybe you just haven't tried hard enough. Maybe you didn't know the right people, you didn't know what trees to shake on. And that gives them an out
Hmm.
just by having these things there.
Hmm.
And this is what it was all for. So
Hmm.
now we have a rude awakening that, oh, it really wasn't what we thought it was going to be.
Well, I mean, well, I can tell you firsthand that I don't know any people, but I also know that, when I was a former employee and I was sexually harassed, EEOC couldn't get nothing done for me.
What?
You heard me. They couldn't get nothing done for me because they just didn't have enough, as they say.
Enough what? Enough balls? Come on, man.
Dead serious. Dead serious. And so that's why when I see those things, I try not to speak on a lot of that with a lot of people because I think sometimes it gets misconstrued. But I think when you have programs or operations like that, as we're speaking of, and they're supposed to do what they're supposed to do, and you clearly see that it works for one but not the other, but when you actually put that out there, that's the shame that they refuse to accept.
Yes, because it exposes the system.
You know,
But if once the system is exposed and people start asking questions
right.
and can't have that.
Because then it all starts crumbling down.
Well, yeah, and it does. But see, again, I think that goes back to the whole point of the perspective in which we're here today is because we know that this is happening. But I think a little bit more of the insight, because I got to tell you, as I told you guys when I talked to you, is that when I read your paper, I really love that angle. So, can you tell our audience a whole lot more about the part of how it comes to these corporations and the men that lead these corporations that actually enhances the oppression?
Oh, I don't know if we have enough time to go into all that. We did a podcast episode a couple of months ago with that whole Campbell's soup controversy that came about. And I bring that up because it's a prime example of that kind of leadership, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
People don't get into those kinds of positions unless there is a common culture and a common way of thinking and expression. And leadership comes from the top down. So whatever is happening at the top, whatever the culture is, that's going to trickle down to, upper management, middle management, all the way down to, individual subordinates. And that is hence what you have for, a company culture. So they may tell you, oh, we've invested this and much money to, be more inclusive, and we're doing this and we're doing that. But have you changed the culture? It's always focused on the little people that need to fix their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't hear very often any talk about what's going on in the C-suite. What's the mindset there? Because again, the end of the day, it's about the money. When you're in that C-suite, when, everybody's sitting on the board, that's what it's going to be about. So I know that doesn't really answer your question, but that is what I see when it comes to the leadership at the top. And the only way to really have any impact on that is to speak the language that they understand, which is money.
And but did you understand? Then you need to add to that, Lace.
I did actually, because I also think if you want to change that, and it's really hard to change what's going on at the moment with people in the mindsets that they're in, and they don't want to change nothing, and you may not have the money to change it or what have you, start there, but also start with the youth, start with the children, because they're the leaders of tomorrow. They're the leaders of the next generation. And if you've got them thinking right, acting right, when they get to that, they're just gonna flood out all of the rubbish, because we can essentially have an army, if you like, of young people who have grown up and are now in the right mindset to go on and lead. So there'll be no space for none of that nonsense at the top, because they will outweigh the stuff that we're seeing now. So I think, yes, we do need to tackle at the top as it is at the moment as much as we can, but we also need to be strategic and go for the youth.
I wanted to add one thing, Mr. King. Sorry. And we also touched on, again, the performative leadership. And in our paper, we cited a 2022 paper that talked about the gap between passion and positive systemic impact. So, meaning in order for leadership to go beyond just the optics and performance, there has to be structural conditions in place.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be accountability. And this is something that we see a lot in corporate spaces is, yeah, the talk is there, the check boxes are there, pamphlets, but where's the accountability? What happens when those supposed standards are not met?
Right. So tell us about the company that you guys have created and its premise, and what are the things that it does.
The Flavor Room. The Flavor Room is a curated ecosystem for leaders and founders of color. So it goes back to what we were saying earlier. How do we help ourselves? How do we bring together that inclusion and help ourselves as us, Black people? That's what we're doing. We've created that space where we're not scared of each other. Oh, there's competition, stepping on toes and all of that. No, we're here to rise together, to put each other on, just like certain other people do. They're all
Right.
in each other's pockets. They're all putting each other on. They're on each other's shows, podcasts, promoting each other's books and all of that good stuff. That's what we have a space for.
Exactly.
To amplify our own messages and each other's, refer each other, help each other out, and to share the things essentially that we're talking about now, to share that weight that we carry, to support each other, and to do everything we can to make sure that we're putting ourselves on top, so that we're growing rather than, staying at the bottom fighting with each other like they want us to. No, no, no. This is a space here for community, for referrals, for trust, and to grow. So that's essentially what we've created as a flavor room. But we've also obviously got the paper, we've got the framework that we created from it, so we can go and start getting into those corporations and the bigger spaces to try and tackle at the top, like we just spoke about. But we also are creating initiatives to tackle the youth as well and help them to step into their leadership, be ready to go out and work, to be ready to go out and lead and have all the skills that they need to go and do that. So when that next generation come in, we've helped create that army of the good stuff.
So, as we were talking earlier, and you guys mentioned the part about corporations and the corporate world. So when we talk about corporate retractions of DEI, post 2020 surge followed by 2023 to 2025 rollback. Legal challenges reshaping corporate risk tolerance. DEI roles eliminated while inequities remained unchanged. And the question for this is, what does it mean when corporations retreat from DEI while benefiting from the innovation, culture, and labor of marginalized communities? Let's talk about that.
I'm smiling, Mr. King, because that's always been the story.
Yeah, right?
And we had an interview with an entrepreneur that shared that as well, for the section of the illusion of inclusion, where she spoke about being invited to something and her ideas were not only stolen, they were repurposed, they were made money off of, and it was like she never existed. So this is not new. And we know this.
Mhm.
There's countless stories. I'm sure you could spout off stories. I could as well personally,
Right.
where this has happened on a, smaller scale, right? So that's just how it's been. And this is a prime example of how things have not changed.
So when you think about this, though, I mean, because again, now, we as Black people, our culture, we have a part to play in this. And when I say we have a part to play in this, I want you to think about it when this administration first took over at the top of 2025. And what was the first thing that they said? No DEI, right? When they said no DEI, you had major retailers like Target and Walmart to say, we're no longer participating in that, before you had others to slide along slowly but surely. When we think about that, how is it that we are not being reached, or shall I say, it's not being embedded in here for a lot of our people to continue to patronize those places?
That is a conversation, Mr. King, that I've had privately with friends and family for years. And that's a whole other podcast, a series of podcasts. But it ties back to this social conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
We were told after the civil rights movement, you're good now. You can go to the same schools, ride the buses. Your equality, your humanity is directly related to what your white counterpart has. So now that you have that, you're good. There's nothing to worry about. Let us take care of you. We're going to give you what you need and everything's going to be fine. And we have unfortunately had those amongst us who have been gatekeeping. They have been put in certain positions to perpetuate the mental enslavement, if you will, through entertainment, through various industries. There's, multiple ways that, the Trojan horses have come to the gates. And that's a part of it as well. Being in lockstep because someone is melanated and they're on a big screen. Oh, they have our best intentions in mind. No.
Let me put it to you this way, and I want to get your response. That goes back to when Barack Obama was nominated for president of the United States. And the word around America is, "Ooh, there's no more racism."
Yes,
So with
arrived.
so with that, I mean, and you look at how things are continuously reverting back to 1955. Again, how is it that a lot of these structures and these cultures that supposedly have been put intact, um, they're still sitting there, but they have no meaning? What do we do about that?
We have to realize they have no meaning. Then we have to realize that we have the power. We have the power to either give them meaning or burn it all down and create new things that we can attach the meaning to that we want. But, just continuing to hit your head at the wall and wondering why it's bleeding is not working.
Mhm. That's
And being
selfish
upset,
identity.
exactly, and being enraged and shocked when the same thing keeps happening over and over again. We've seen this. Just pick up a book, read our history, read the history of the United States.
Mhm.
It's clear.
And vote with your money. Like you said, these stores decided, oh, we're not participating in this DEI rubbish anymore. We're not doing this. Don't spend your money there. I don't think people realize how much power they actually have, and that they can vote with their dollars, they can vote with their pounds, they can vote with their euros by where they spend their cash. And if that means you've got to, go a little further to do your shopping, or hey, go to the mom and pop store and shop with them instead, you can really hurt these people. But if you just like, I think there's a lot of apathy where it's like, oh, well, nothing's really ever going to change. This is as good as it's going to get. So we might as well just carry on. And then nothing changes. Vote with your cash. Give it to people that are doing the things you want them to be doing. They'll keep doing those things. And the people that are not doing the things you want them to do, they're going to start scrambling. They're eventually going to go bust. They're going to realize they've got to change. Vote with your cash. Everybody got some. Doesn't matter how little you've got. Spend it in the right places and hit them where it hurts, in the wallets.
And we've seen that in recent years, Mr. King. The atrocities that have taken place overseas, right? 2023, there was many people who said no to Starbucks, to McDonald's, where they had to come out and say, hey, we're not a part of this. It hurt their sales. So I say that anecdotally that it works when you take your money elsewhere. We've seen it with Target as well and others. But, this collective amnesia comes about and people forget.
But as as we're saying this, because I mean, this all is so it's so sensical that we should all know that, as you're saying, if there's something that's not working, we know it's not working. We have to do something. I propose this all the time as well, but the response is always very weak. That is, why can we not unite to create our own systems, to operate a system within the system in order to actually change it and blow it up? Or if we're not going to do that, then that means that unless you can change the minds of the gatekeepers that's standing there at the front that look like us, that are preventing us from doing that, unless we can change their minds and have them come on board, which I don't see that happening. See, they're part of that 10%. And so, with that being said, I mean, how do you feel about if it's really that truth that we can structurally do our own formation in order to build a system within the system? But how do we get people on board to do the right thing? Because that takes an enormous amount of vetting. Because just like I know, that there are folk that like to run back and tell Big Brother all the things that he or she cannot see. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. There's an element of sacrifice that has to be made, Mr. King, of personal sacrifice.
Mhm.
And that is the biggest hurdle to people uniting and coming together for the common good, is that element of sacrifice. Because we've been told, you can't trust the person next to you. Again, we talked about the competition and all these types of things. It would be that going forward, that is better not only for you in the long run, but your family, future generations. It's better to have some of that pain now and sacrifice, giving up some of the goodies that you get from the system to put towards something else.
Now, another thing, that I think pretty much is already a system that's in place. And when I say that, Soja, I want to make sure that you follow me so you can make sure you understand what I'm saying. There are several created lanes that we all do in our community because we're a natural creative people that actually go out and we can make things happen. We have platforms like this one. We have podcasts that are actually attacking pretty much every angle of everything, every situation that's happening that's actually oppressing our communities. Because we can't trust mainstream media. Mainstream media is basically, that's gone. That's a piece of crap. And I think anybody that's listening to that right now has got a problem because what you're getting is when you can't get real time situations as to the that war that's taking place over in Iran, when you can't get the real situations and pictures and destruction that's happening, when you can't get that, and they tell you 5 people died and everything is still good and they're just destroying Iran. Okay, because we know that's a lie. But I'm just using that as an example. Is because we know the media is false. We know that when it comes down to different corporations and companies, we know that based on who you know and if they trust you with the indoctrination that they give you to change your whole thought, you go in as one person, your family don't recognize you when you finish that indoctrination. Because now you're all about that new change. Okay? So I'm just being honest about that because people won't call this for what it is, but whatever that cultism that's happening is happening slowly to surely to a lot of people, and it's people that's getting close to a lot of people in a lot of different families where you're looking like, well, wait a minute, what happened? See, people are kind of like changing in the wrong way. We've got to find a way to make this system of this equity and inclusion be real. Because I think for the premise in which it was created for is a good thing, but that's if they were following the policy that was written. So if we could take that policy in all of our businesses and culture that we're creating for all these lanes that we're creating, and we're creating millions and millions of lanes now. It didn't happen 20 years ago, but now the lanes are getting wider. But with the lanes getting wider, they're not close enough. That's the coming together part. What's some suggestions that you would think that we can do in order to start, from a start perspective, to make this thing start running together and then going out? What do you think?
Easiest thing to do is start at home. Start with your own sphere of influence, yourself, your friends, your family who will listen, your children. Start there. That starts with how you eat, what you're eating, what you're consuming, who you're around, how you are thinking. Are you thinking in the short term? Are you thinking in the long term? Are you already thinking in terms of outside of the system as much as you realistically can be?
Mhm.
Then how can you do that? What are your skills?
Mhm.
Is it with your hands? Is it, authorship, something else? How can you take that and amplify your message so people come to you, right? Then they're seeking answers. Then they're being empowered to eat better, right? Watch what they consume and do all the things that you were doing, in a sense, ripple effect.
Mhm.
I think that's how we start at home, because a lot of times what stops people from trying to think about how powerful they are is that it seems too wide and vast. We're consumed by the movies and the superheroes, and it seems, oh, there's no way that I can change what's around me. Well, you can. Generations before have done it. We didn't get here by osmosis.
Right.
There was a clear trajectory. Things changed. Therefore, if things changed, they can change again. But we have to be the catalyst for that change, and it starts with us. We can't worry about someone else's house until we've cleaned up our own.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue is everyone is looking outside of themselves. I need you to do this and I need them to do that, but they won't do this and they're behaving like, no, just start with you, your family, and then whatever skills that you have that you're putting out into the world, whatever your message is, however you're, moving with that, start connecting with other people who vibe with that. This reminds me of a conversation we had yesterday. In fact, our whole day was pretty much like this. We started by looking at ourselves, wanting to right those wrongs, doing the research, going out there, giving it all that, getting in as many places and spaces that would listen. And now we're connecting with people, we're reaching out, we're collabing with other black and brown entrepreneurs who are essentially doing similar things and
Mhm.
seeing how can we collaborate, how can we support each other, and that it doesn't matter that they're across borders. We talking to everybody, and that's the beauty of the internet is we can reach so many more people now. So once you started at home and you start to reach out and make connections, we are truly, truly powerful and very well connected. We just need to get out there and talk to each other and be open to collaboration rather than afraid of that competition. And it absolutely can be done.
So, in talking about what you mentioned just a few minutes ago, said, well, I want to ask y'all this question here about DEI versus power. But now we know that DEI often focuses on representation, not authority. It focuses on access without influence. Well, access without influence is symbolic, not structural. And the question to this is, how do we shift DEI from counting bodies to building power?
Our expectations,
Okay.
because right now we're still expecting it to include us, you know. And I think once we change our expectations, then we can move towards, well, I don't like the way that this looks. I want something else. Because again, if we leave that open, then we're expecting someone else to give us the authority and the power, and they will not do that.
True.
So for too long, we've had all kinds of terms that were put upon us, define our behaviors, define what we should and shouldn't be doing, what we should and shouldn't be asking for.
Well, so I want to let's go over here and talk about leadership density as a strategy. Um, we don't talk about when we talk about the flavor rooms model and how you reframe DEI. So that is from the concentrated excellence, the high caliber peer ecosystems, and the structural accountability. Why is leadership density more transformative than diversity quotas?
Because the leadership is what shapes policy.
Mhm.
It's what really changes things. You
Mhm.
can have black and brown faces all day long.
Mhm.
But if it's just people there who have, again, no influence, they're not really changing things, well, then the system, the status quo stays as it was. There's no change with that. So, leadership that is real, that goes beyond just performance, that people are listening, they're open to feedback, they mean what they say and say what they mean, and they walk in that, and the actions are clear. That's where you get the change.
Mhm.
But we're also seeing that that's not happening either.
Mhm.
And we're seeing rumblings that people are starting to pay attention. Well, hey, so and so has been saying this, but that's not what we're getting. You know, they've been saying everything is big and beautiful and that we're winning. I don't feel like I'm winning right now. So we're seeing the cracks with the leadership as well. And I think we're going to find a time very soon where all of this that we're talking about is going to come together, where people are going to have to make some decisions. People, meaning us regular folk, about what side we're on.
I
Yeah,
agree.
because quotas are tick boxes, and that's never going to change anything. If it's just a tick box, you're just going to tick it and go, right, that's done.
And quotas
It never
change.
changes. Yeah, and then it's a different tick box. I'm gonna tick that one now. It has to have structure. It has to be built into the DNA, if you like. It has to be in the fabric. It can't just be a tick box, because that was never designed to work, and as we've seen, it does not. So we've got to do it differently, and I think it needs to be built in. Like the bricks and the mortar. That's where it needs to begin.
The accountability.
Okay. So, I mean, because like when you think about leadership, I mean, I think we as people, we know real leadership when we see it. And I'm sure that, well, I'm not going to say that I'm sure, but I think for most people knew that there was no leadership. Most people know that. Most. But you see, again, we go into this part where, in knowing that there was no leadership, but you still had, what's that, 60% of people still put this in place. Now, with that being said, and I mean, I'm just like, I want to kind of like spread it out so it's not so thick. Because there's no leadership. We know that, right? So as we spread this out, how far out are we going to go to find this leadership, so we can start something? Starting with myself, you're not going to find leadership, okay? Because every last one of these folk that's supposedly leading this country are DEI hires. None of these people are qualified. They're not qualified at the most. Not qualified. So, with them not being qualified, we know we're not going to find leadership. We've got to pick up this mantle somehow, and we've got to start making this change. Help me out.
I don't think I can say what I want to say, Mr. King, on this platform. So I have some varying opinions on that, how that could actually be done. But it's just so much. There's so much. I'm trying to
Yeah.
watch my words. I'm trying to watch my words here because I don't want you to get flagged. Um, Everybody has to go. The whole thing is rotten.
Yes.
The whole thing is rotten to the core. There is no fixing it. There is no maybe we can put a band-aid on it. But it is up to the people, average people, to actually give a damn and fix it. Stop putting your head in the sand and saying, "Oh, someone else is going to come along. I could just vote this person in. They're going to get it right." Kicking your responsibilities, your future, your gas prices, your jobs, your children's future, your health care, your opportunities down the road for someone else to fix. I think that's the biggest problem because now we're at the point where people are outsourcing their own power to a degree just for comfort. And it goes back to what I said earlier about that sacrifice. You are going to have to get uncomfortable. At this point, it's either going to be by force or by choice. Because all of the things that people were used to before, those things are not coming back. So we have a new paradigm here that people will have to adjust to and learn to adapt and bring forth change that way. You either going to be a part of that change or you're going to be forced to change. So which one is it?
Wow.
But as far as the system as it is, and people collectively know this. I agree with you, but I think especially with Americans and certain types of Americans, we'll leave it at that. There is a sense of hope, but it's blind hope. It has no direction. It's just there. Maybe you could liken it to apathy a little bit. That, well, it's somehow going to fix itself out. It always does. We're still here, right? So it's going to work out. Someone's going to fix it for us, but it never
Oh,
gets
they'll
fixed.
fix it. They'll fix it with some solution that ain't nobody gonna like. And again, like Sutton said, you're gonna have to get uncomfortable because you're either gonna be forced into some stuff you really don't want to be doing, or you're gonna have to stand up and say no and lead yourself, because that's where it starts, with leading yourself, leading your own family. And I think we're gonna be looking at, you have to do some mass compliant, non-compliance, or change is gonna come. Change is already coming, and you have a choice, but not for much longer. And you're either going to be forced to go this way and do whatever they're telling you need to do, because that's the way it's going to be now, or you're going to have to say no, stand up, get uncomfortable, and lead, because there's no other way to do it. These people are not coming to save us. They were never here to help us. It was never designed to benefit us. So it's up to us, each of us, to stand up and decide what are we going to do. Because if we all just sit back and go, yeah, they'll fix it, well, it's going to get real ugly real fast. And then there's going to come a point where you ain't going to be able to get out.
Well, and the disconnect with history as well. We have a very rich history of defiance, right? Rebellion, of resourcefulness, of creativity, of making our own way. There's no reason not to. There's no reason not to do it now. We have actually more tools and resources than those who came before us.
That's true, but remember, as I said in the beginning, though, remember you have to make sure that you vet those folks that you're around to make sure that
Yeah.
whatever you're doing that's going to make that difference. Everybody can be privy to that.
No, they can't, especially now.
Everybody cannot be privy to that, and I think that's the issue that we're probably going to be facing, because not everybody is saying that everybody is bad, but I think we all have that spidey sense to tingle when we know that there's something here that's not making me comfortable, or there's this person that's not making me comfortable. And so you just got to go through a real serious vetting process in order to make the real changes happen. Because I can honestly tell you, I think with the way these folk like to drop microphones and them little things that look like some piece of grass all at your house and everything, because they want to hear and see what you're doing. And
Yeah,
it's just like,
parties where there's cameras and honeypots. Yeah.
I mean, they're doing all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, I'm sorry to say, but it's like we're in this Twilight sci-fi movie, Twilight Zone and sci-fi. At the same time, where it's kind of like, is that real? Because you don't know. So I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but it's the gatekeepers that make me feel that way, because I've seen a lot of those, and I see a lot of those right now that are actually serving as prominent people. And I so badly, whenever it's time to drop a story, I like to drop a story and I let it go for a while. Because some people need to know about a lot of people. They just need to. They just need to.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about the future of DEI, and so when we move from performative to structural, symbolic to measurable, from corporate to community driven, what does the next era of DEI look like when founders of color build the infrastructure instead of waiting for permission, as you just mentioned?
It's intentional.
So understand that intentional part, because intentional means everything in the world. Because that's where the absolutism comes in. So how do we get to that point?
Dismantle it, create our own.
Yeah, and see, again, that really sounds like, us having to create a system within a system, and we
Mhm.
can operate in that vacuum. But if we start operating in that vacuum, that's at a point of no return, which means that everybody that's in that vacuum, everybody is benefiting, but everybody's getting what they need, and everybody's doing what has to be done. How do we get that started without the folk that like to stop and create disruption? How do we do that to keep the disruptors away? Because they're there, just like they're listening tonight.
Of course they are. You need to have the right people in place. And I think it needs to start grassroots.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen those be subverted as well. But starting with a core group of people, some kind of initiative where it has standards. It's very clear. And saying we don't need any allies, as it were. We don't need to be saved this time.
Right, right.
You can come to our table and negotiate with us, but we're not going to be coming to your table looking for a seat at it, because we know how that story goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really taking ownership, which is something that we have struggled to do because of, like you said, the gatekeepers,
Yeah,
because of the inferiority and, all these other things. So, yeah, it has to be standards, it has to be accountability, it has to be people on the ground floor, not people who have, a bunch of money and who are connected to, movers and shakers. It has to be real people. We have to do all of this, whether
yeah,
it's education, higher education, health, business, DEI, we have to do all of it.
mm-hmm.
None of this can be outsourced anymore.
No, no, it can't. No, it can't, because just telling you from my perspective, um, I'm going to tell you, you've been in the military, and that is right now, it's GQ. It's GQ. It's the truth. It's the truth. But see, this is this is where when you have to teach the civilian population what that means. Because when it's GQ, this ain't a drill. This is real. This is real. And if it's real and you're not prepared, then you probably get swallowed up.
I don't disagree with you. I don't.
Hmm. This is
Not at all.
GQ. And I don't know if if sounding the alarm and people not understanding the alarm is good, or if you got to find another way to wake people up, because we still got people that are sleeping. We still got people that are sleeping.
I don't think some are going to wake up. I think some are they're going to just stay sleeping. However, I do honestly believe after the whole 2020 saga, that woke up a lot of people. I saw such a massive change in just, Joe Public after that. Certain things happened, certain armed darts were taken, and things started happening to people, and people started connecting the dots. And then they tried, to do several other similar type scares. And the difference between what I saw the first time round compared to the things they tried the next time round, people are like, oh, no, 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 we're not doing that again. So that was very refreshing. And that was like a really good sign, because I thought, oh, there's a few more people that have, woken up and smelt the coffee beans, if you like. But I don't think everyone's going to wake up. Some people are a little bit slower to catch on. Some people just cannot let go of the things that they thought they believed that were true. When they just can't, that cognitive dissonance, you start messing with people and they just can't handle it. But some people do. And I think we really have to remember there is more of us than there is of them. We are so powerful if we come together, even with, the few people that are still going to be sleeping. There is more of us than there is of them. There's more of us than there is of gatekeepers. There's more of us than there is of the little 1% doing all the nonsense in the world. We just have to get brave.
Yeah.
We got to get brave. And if we can get brave, get uncomfortable, yes, it's going to be a bit of a mess. We're going to lose some people. We always be losing them anyway. But we can effectively change the world after that. Or we can change it in a completely different way by just continuing to do what we do and stick our heads in the sand, keep going to Walmart, keep going to Target, keep doing all of those things, keep ticking boxes and just march into whatever it is they have planned for us. Or we can go the opposite way and march into whatever it is that we have planned for ourselves and, deal with the fallout along the way. But at least we know when we get to the other side of that rainbow, as it were, it's going to be that pot of gold rather than, walk into the opposite side of the rainbow and ending up down some mine somewhere.
We don't need everybody to wake up anyway. And I think that there are people who are aware of certain things, but they just don't vocalize it because there's that fear as well.
That part is true as well. And I think even with that, folk acting as though if, oh, it's too much to talk about and I can't talk about it. Why are you going to walk around, be depressed, feel like the world is coming to an end, feel like your life is over? You sink deeper into a depression that you can't come out because you are afraid to speak on how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. That's bull. That's bull. This is the 21st century. Times have gone way past that. People aren't creating these lanes for nothing. These lanes aren't being created for nothing. They're created for a very reason and they are purposeful. The thing is, if you like this lane, that lane, or whatever lane you like, get in the lane with a purpose. So if you get in the lane, do what you do. But if you walk around there and you still want to say, oh, well, I'm timid, let me keep my head down, the hell with that. The hell with that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Those fence straddlers.
No, we ain't doing that. I will never do that.
I'm here.
Her parents and my parents were like, no, we don't play them kind of games. You call it for what it is and you keep it moving. You like it, oh well. You don't like it, oh well. Go get over it. Go sit down in your corner and cry and say, oh, I didn't like that. Okay, you didn't like it. So what? What you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. But you see, we've got so many folk, especially those that look like us, that are still in this thing where, well, ooh, I ain't trying to rock that boat because they may come and kill us. Okay, well, come kill me then. Okay, I died for a reason and a purpose.
Well, there's no skin in the game for those individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. It's like it's getting to that point, like I said, and every day the alarms are sounding, and they sound every day, noontime Eastern Standard Time. I want you to continue. I want you to check out the trend. Every day at noontime. Every day at noontime. This false media is dropping all kind of hints and clues of what's happening, but people aren't picking them up.
You know, what's interesting about that, Mr. King, is um, I live in North Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And so the access I get to, different perspectives is very different.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a whole different perspective on what's what with certain
Right.
situations.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People in America have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so I just tell you, that's why you have to, again, you have to try to be resourceful. You have to reach out and find what you need to get. So when
Hmm.
you find it, you hold on to it and let it keep going. Because as it keeps going and you learn and you keep doing the things that you have to do, then everything works out. So I'm just going to tell you that for me, I do believe that there's just a lot of things that we have to do, and there are a lot of things that I know we can do. None of that craziness, that's happening today. I mean, I'm not afraid of it. And I'm not afraid of any of that because, you know, if I can put my life on the line for a country that hates me, that I come back, and I still survive and grow within its ecosystem where I've never been a part of its system when it comes to uh being locked up or whatever have you, because I don't know what that is. Okay. But in not being a part of those things, is that my example and what I lead with is the truth and the purpose as to what's going to work best for me and my community. And so, as until folk want to join, I can be that one lone ranger, but I will promise you this: nobody is going to tell me that I must do this. No, because that's not going to happen. And see, that's where we all have to have what we believe is our result. You
Absolutely.
know, so just like you guys are here today, each and every guest that come here, you come here for that one reason and that one purpose, and that is you're telling your story, what you have gone through, what you're going to do about it, and why you're doing that. That's what people need to hear, because each and every last one of those superheroes, like you guys that have come here today, those are the ones, the superheroes that people need to know. And I call you a superhero because that's exactly what you are to me. So what they say is the Webster's definition of superhero. That's not my definition, because that definition does not refer to me. Just like most things. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the purpose and the premise. That's the drive. And that's what you guys are doing when you show this drive for what you're doing with your company. Because those ecosystems, believe it or not, that you're creating are going to make a real difference. It may take a while for people in America to understand the ecosystems that you're putting in place. But I can guarantee you, those people across the water, if they understand what your messaging is, I can guarantee you that they're going to find more than just use for it. They're going to be about that. You see,
Thank you.
that's
Yes.
what we're talking about.
Yeah, and we agree. And it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because the amount of flack and backlash, and we talked to you about that before we came on this podcast,
Mhm.
with creating the flavor room was very interesting and still remains very interesting. There were people who look like us that we're not about this. Why are you doing that?
Mhm.
Can't you just kind of keep it down? That's
Hmm.
bad for business. You're gonna mess up your money doing this kind of thing. It's very unprofessional.
Hmm.
Professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are business liabilities, man. We don't want nothing to do with you. Oh yeah,
Divisive.
we've heard it. Mm. Oh yeah.
Well, believe me, you'll be the ones that they're running to when they need you that's still standing to reach their hand down and pull their asses up and say, "No, that ain't you, is it? This is divisive. Do you really want me to reach my hand down to grab you? Let me think about it."
Right. I'll circle back.
Right.
Uh,
That's the craziness. Oh my god. Let me, so let me just let's just go here. I have a closing monologue, but I want to have you guys in closing, both of you, if you'd like to leave words of wisdom and encouragement, telling people how to follow you on your social medias, how to get to your website, all of those good things. You can. I need you to go ahead and put those out, and then we'll go with the closing monologue.
okay, I'll let you guys know how to get in touch. Sutton is awesome with the last words, so I'll give her the last words. But if you have been listening today and you're like, these two women, I need to connect with, head to our website www.theflavor.biz and you can see everything that we're all about. And if you're interested in being part of the Flavor Room, click get in the room and book a call with us. You can listen to our podcast. We have the Fully Flavored Business podcast on all of your favorite channels: Amazon, Spotify, iHeart, and whatever the other one is. I don't remember now. But they're all there. Again, it's on the website. Go and listen. We talk about things that nobody else is talking about. And the Campbell Soup episode is waiting for you where we talk about that leadership. So go and tune in. And lastly, you can connect with me and Sutton on LinkedIn. Our names are our names, Lace Flowers and Sutton C. McCraney. We are the only people by our name, so you can't miss us. So go ahead and give us a connection request. And if you want to chat, throw us a DM.
Thank you, Lace. Parting words. If you have something burning inside of you that you have been holding back on, an idea, a business, if you have a business, an offer, whatever it is, something that you want to change, something you're tired of seeing. You're tired of turning on the TV and seeing all this crap. Now's the time. Not tomorrow, not next year, not for New Year's. Now is the time to do something. Just sitting back, hoping that everything you want, your dreams are going to fall into your lap, just hoping that someone's going to come save you. It's not happening. The saving, the changing is you. So start now. Whatever that looks like for you. Now is not the time to be afraid. Now is not the time to be looking around the corner. It's now. This is your moment. This is your ready. This is your signal. This is your go. Go out there and change the world in your own way. It doesn't have to be big because you doing your part is big enough. That's all we need. And that's what you were put here to do, is to be that change for your sphere of influence.
And before I do my closing monologue, I want to first say for everyone that's watching on all of our channels as we broadcast the show live, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do us that favor and support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel as well as enabling all notifications so that every show, every post that we do, you'll get that post, you'll get the show live, and you'll also be able to go back and watch each and every show that we do, that we have done, and you can get the knowledge that each and every guest has left behind. I want to thank you guys for being here and discussing this subject matter because, again, it's one of those things that deserve to be talked about. People deserve to know, especially about that paper that you guys did because it was really good. People deserve to understand that if there's something that's there for you, you're entitled to that. But if people are trying to take that away from you, that is a problem, and it should be addressed. So I want to say again, I hope that we get the opportunity to have you guys back again. And I am going to close with this monologue. Tonight's conversation reminds us that DEI is not dying, it is evolving, and evolution requires architects. It requires people willing to build structures that do not bend to political cycles or corporate trends. Sutton and Lace are doing exactly that. The Flavor Room is not just a space, it is a blueprint. It is a reminder that when we build with intention, with standards, with integrity, and with institutional vision, we create ecosystems that cannot be erased, diluted, or co-opted. As we close, remember this: power is not given, access is not gifted, institutions are not accidents. They are built brick by brick, leader by leader, generation by generation. And we are the generation that refuses to build small. Good night, family. Stay informed, stay empowered, and stay intentional. This has been America in Black and White, and I'm your host, Charles King. You guys have a great weekend, and we will see you guys Monday evening for another great show. Thank you, ladies, for joining us, and we'll be in touch.